My wife and I were both reborn 3 months before the college entrance exam, but I was worried about how to stay away from her. Just because in our previous life, we argued loudly every day. Until I was 70, when I took my last breath. At the moment I was lying in bed about to die. I wanted to ask her one honest question. In our 50 years of marriage, have you ever loved me even for a single day? Hesitating and uncertain, I already had the answer in my heart. Finally, I said to her, if everything could start over, I would never want to love you again. After saying that, I closed my eyes, losing consciousness. When I woke up again, I found that I had been reborn. I went back to 3 months before the college entrance exam, maybe because of my intense wish before dying in my previous life. I really got reborn. If heaven gives me another chance, then in this life, I will never look for Rensu and Ichai again. In the previous life, because the Su family's company encountered difficulties, the Su family proposed marriage to the Liu family to collaborate with my family's company. Although she was a well-known top student, I was just a poor student sitting in the back row near the window. After graduation, following my family's arrangements, I gradually took over my father's position because she was both beautiful and sensible. My father happily agreed to our marriage, and I also happily accepted. But at that time, she already had a lover, also a top student. Her family forced them to break up, so that Rensu and Ichai could marry me. So after marriage, she was never happy. No matter how well I treated her, she never smiled at me. That's why I asked her before dying, in the past 50 years, have you ever loved me for a day? The truth proved that 50 years couldn't move her. So in this life, I will have nothing to do with her anymore. But the cooperation between the Su family and my family will still go on as usual, because not long after, the cooperation will be very successful. Both families will benefit a lot. It's just not necessary for the Su family to sell their daughter to me. Now I need to seize the time to study, making up for the regrets of my previous life. Then, combining the knowledge accumulated over 50 years, I'll take the company's products international. Lu Chen, you don't play basketball after school anymore, nor do you skip classes to hide in the restroom. Have you been possessed? In fact, I came back from 50 years in the future. In my previous life, I didn't get into a top university, which left me with lifelong regrets. So in this life, I must study diligently. Of course, my friends thought I was crazy. Half a month later, my father called, asking me to come home early after school. We were having guests over that night. Remember to pick up some gifts that girls like on your way home. Finally, in my previous life, I painstakingly bought guitars, dolls, and handmade toys, but only received childish comments. This time, I deliberately bought even more childish dolls. Seeing 18-year-old Sun Yan again, I was still amazed. She was still as gentle, beautiful, and exuded a noble aura. But this time, in just a moment, I looked away from her. I knew no matter how beautiful she wasn't mine. Ah Chen, you're meeting Zhao Yan for the first time, and you even brought her a gift. I've never seen you care so much about anyone. If I don't go into acting, it would be a waste. I threw the toy on the ground, looked at Sunayan's cold face, and said, my dad told me to give this to you. Time was tight, so I just bought it at a roadside stall. My dad saw the 3-year-old's toy on the ground and angrily picked up a shovel to hit me. But I wasn't afraid. In my previous life, I had reached 70 years old. My father was not yet 40 now. Logically, I was the older one. I sat on the sofa, crossed my legs, changed my expression, and spoke in the tone of teaching a grandson from my previous life. You're already this old, yet you have no semblance of maturity. It's truly embarrassing. My father and the other wealthy men were astonished. After a while, my father gave an awkward laugh. What is this? I have a good relationship with my son. We usually joke around like this when no one else is around, so he considers everyone here as family. Mister Su heard this and smiled, but he still maintained a stern expression. He frowned. Did he think in this life I wanted to be family with him? In this life, I don't want to waste 50 years with someone who doesn't love me. I walked up to her and coldly said, if you don't like the gift I bought, then I'll keep it for myself. After saying this, I prepared to pick it up, but she suddenly grabbed the doll, smiling at me for the first time, a smile I had never seen before. "Thank you." She smiled at me. This was precious. It couldn't be. This was the first time in 50 years she had smiled at me. Could it be she wasn't Sun-Yan? Or that this doll really made her happy? And she even thanked me. This really shocked me. What was happening? Anyway, in this life, I won't have anything to do with her. I directly snatched the Barbie doll back, coldly saying, "Sorry, this Barbie doll is for me. This Barbie doll is for me." Everyone was surprised. My father couldn't bear it and scolded me as a brat. "What nonsense are you talking about today?" Dinner started. My father and Mr. Su raised their glasses together, but I remained indifferent. She wasn't lying, but I knew she was very opposed inside. In the previous life, my presence destroyed them. So in this life, I'll let them be happy. Until midnight, she finally left, without saying goodbye. The next day, the homeroom teacher said, there was a new student joining our class. I was truly surprised to see who it was. "Sun-Yan, please sit in the front row. I heard you were top ranked at your previous school, and your grades were among the best. At our school, we can't let you be at a disadvantage." Because Sun-Yan had a beautiful appearance and a youthful style. The boys in the class were all very enthusiastic. The homeroom teacher planned to seat Sun-Yan next to the class monitor, but unexpectedly, Sun-Yan walked straight to me, and then looked at me politely. "We meet again. Can I sit next to you?" Was she talking to me? Before I could think much, I just heard Sun-Yan ask again, "Can I sit next to you?" "Sun-Yan, he sits at the back of the class. You should sit with the class monitor, who is the top student in the school. You can study together and help each other." "Thank you for your kind offer, but I want to sit next to Lu Chen. I know him. Oh my, in this life, I don't want to have any connection with her. Now I just want to study well. Sorry, I'm used to sitting alone, and I don't want anyone sitting next to me. Also, Sun-Yan, we just met last night. You should sit elsewhere, so it doesn't affect your studies." Sun-Yan looked a bit sad, but quickly returned to the expression I knew, arrogant and bossy, with a domineering look. "This seat doesn't belong to your family. I'll sit wherever I want." Her expression, I'm really annoyed to see it now. I wonder how I endured it for 50 years in the previous life. "Alright, sit wherever you want. I have no right to interfere." After saying this, I called a few friends and went to play basketball in the back. Immediately, I heard the homeroom teacher scolding from the classroom. What a troublemaker, ruining everything. But I ignored it. Who says that poor grades mean bad students? Besides, some of them developed well later on. The least successful ones have even bought houses. Some even became idols. Although their grades were not good, poor academic performance doesn't reflect character and ability. After playing basketball all morning, I was about to go buy a drink, when suddenly someone approached. They handed me a bottle of water. Don't drink cold water after exercise. It's best not to drink cold water right after. "Lu Chen, I didn't expect you to be so charming. You're flirting with the new girl and thoughtfully preparing a drink. So sweet. Go away, don't talk nonsense." "Thank you, Sun-Yan, but no need. I'm used to drinking cold water. I'm not interested in the marriage your father mentioned. But as for the marriage your father mentioned, forget it. I know you have a childhood friend with whom you have a good relationship, and you really like that person. I'm not interested in you, so there's no need to be close to me. I'll talk to my father. It won't affect the cooperation between the two families. This is better for both of us." After saying this, I left. It's better to cut it off early than to end up like in the previous life, where I couldn't escape even in death. It's better to handle it this way. As I was about to go eat, Sun-Yan ran up from behind. Her face pale, she pulled me back. "Don't think you're the only one who's reincarnated. If you keep treating me like this, Do you believe I'll tell your
我给
father?
你大告状，
Are you bullying your
未
future
来的
wife?